Hello, everybody, and welcome to this standalone spotlight session where we are going to discuss Summer Reading by Jenn McKinlay. Now, this is a book I totally didn't see myself A, enjoying as much as I did, and B, making me so hyper aware and now invested in a genuine real life issue that affects many readers. So, let's talk about Summer Reading, why I enjoyed it, why I think you should read it, and what makes this book really, really cool and has made me care an awful lot about the fonts we print books in. When I bought this book, I read the premise on the back, looked at the cover and thought, hey, a lovely little summer romance book. Picked it up, took it home, and it was only when I opened the cover that I noticed something that makes this book really unique. And that is the font. Because I have never picked up and read a book with a sans serif font inside. When I opened it up for the first time, I thought, what on earth is this? Like, look at the font. Have you ever seen a book printed like this? So I opened the book, had a very WTF reaction to seeing the font, and then decided to read the letter. At the beginning, it says, statistically, 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 people, I've seen both stats with no definitive number, have a variation of dyslexia. With this new awareness, when it came time to turn in my manuscript, I made my pitch to have Summer Reading published in a dyslexic-friendly font. It says, the text is a sans serif font called Verdana. The words that would usually be in italics are bold instead. No words are cut in half with a hyphen at the end of a sentence, and even the size of the margins were adjusted. It is our hope that this makes reading the book an easier and more pleasant experience for our neurodivergent readers. I had never thought, as I was reading books in whatever font books are normally printed in, that the font itself wasn't necessarily accessible. But it isn't accessible. When I read about Verdana and sans serif fonts, I spoke to some people I knew with dyslexia, and they said, oh yeah, this is why I like reading on a Kindle, because I can change the ebook I'm reading into a dyslexia-friendly font for myself. I thought, what a simple accommodation to make. Printing this book in a sans serif font literally changes nothing about the content, just the way the content is presented. And it threw me initially. Like, I'm not used to seeing books printed like this, but now I can't understand why every book is not written in a sans serif font. I know you can't accommodate everybody when writing a book. This is such a small and easy change to make that would allow dyslexic people to read conventional paperback books. Honestly, now that I'm aware of the problem, I've got a real bee in my bonnet about it. And I have to commend Jenn McKinlay for making me aware that this was even a thing. Because like most people, I didn't appreciate that something I take for granted, which is just the suitability of the font of every single book I've ever read to my needs, precludes and could potentially dissuade people who struggle with reading from picking up these books. I actually am annoyed how ignorant that makes me and the vast majority of people who don't struggle to read. And I loved the fact that Jenn felt strongly about this issue and it wasn't done in a performative manner, because a major plot point of this book is that the main character is severely dyslexic and thus has a very complicated relationship with reading. And if you love reading and want other people to be reading books, the idea of dyslexia being a hindrance to those individuals enjoying something that you yourself adore and love is heartbreaking. This book is both very good at conveying how unfair a lot of our current assumptions and methods of reading, teaching, reading, simply having books out in the world is for people with dyslexia. There's one of many reasons why I want to talk about this book and recommend it to you all today. So straight off the bat, this book is super duper important in terms of its message, super duper amazing in terms of the quality of the story, and super duper enlightening. I really want to support Jenn in this shift. I want more authors to be publishing books in dyslexia-friendly fonts, and hopefully if enough people pick up her book and read it, publishing houses will realise that this matters to people and do it more often. Honestly, I wish the industry standard was an accessible font for people with dyslexia. And I've said my piece. I will wrap it up. But as I've said, it's in there now. And now you're aware of it too. So let's talk about the actual story inside of summer reading and why I think it's the bee's knees. Lots of allusions to bees today. And they aren't a major plot point in the book. I've just obviously got bees on the brain. The main character of summer reading is a professional chef called Sam. She is somewhat estranged from her father, his new wife, and her half-brother, Tyler. Sam's just lost her job in this professional kitchen and decides to spend the summer at her father's house in Martha's Vineyard, while her father and stepmother go away on holiday, giving Sam the opportunity to look after her brother Tyler and get to know him better. But Sam and Tyler are as different as two people can be. Sam loves cooking and is really creative. Tyler is super into robotics. This is going to be an opportunity for the two of them to connect and get to know each other and form the sibling bond that is seemingly missing. On her way to Martha's Vineyard on the ferry, Sam is stood next to a man we discover is called Ben. He is reading a book, and when another person on the ferry is going to be sick, Sam moves out of the way, knocks Ben, and then goes to sympathy Chan over the side of the ferry and knocks his book out of his hand into the water. She apologizes and says, well, at least it isn't something essential, and Ben has a clear difference of opinion about the importance of his book to Sam. We essentially have a meet ugly opposite of a meet cute. The two of them leave the boat and Sam is thinking, thank goodness I'm never going to see him again. I've given him the impression that I hate reading, which she kind of does. But she's also ruined his book, there's been all the sick. She's not made the best first impression. It turns out that Ben is on the island to act as the interim head of the local library, which just so happens to be the location of Tyler's summer robotics camp. So we have the setup for Sam going to the library almost every single day to drop her brother Tyler off and seeing Ben. Sam reconnects with her best friend from childhood who still lives on the island. When Ben realizes that Sam's dislike for reading isn't because she doesn't like stories, it's because she is severely dyslexic and had no accommodations made for her at school, just generally grew up in a very intolerant environment of her struggles, and it's put her off of reading, full stop. So while she and Ben get to know each other, Ben suggests, this is, for every book lover out there, one of the most romantic things that a man has ever and will ever do, ever. He starts reading to her. It's like her own personal IRL audiobook. And he starts using this as a way to guarantee that they're going to see each other again and have more dates. Because she's invested in the story now. And we have the most adorable setup where they meet up every evening. He reads her more of the book. Sometimes they go out for dinner. Sometimes they're at each other's houses. And it's just so bookish and good and romantic. We find out that one of Sam's dreams has always been to publish a cookbook, but because she isn't confident in her abilities to read and write, she's never taken the initiative to do this. When she shares this dream with Ben, he's adamant that this is totally something she can do. So while she cooks all of these iconic recipes her grandmother taught her and takes notes and is helping her compile the cookbook of her dreams. He's, such a lovely guy. So I'm sure you're wondering, what is the conflict, okay? Because clearly the big hurdle to overcome isn't actually Sam's dyslexia. Dyslexia isn't an obstacle to overcome. It is simply a neurodivergent trait that you should accommodate. One of the messages of this book. But you discover that Ben's mother is really famous and that she spent time in this part of Martha's Vineyard as a teenager. It happens to be when and where she got pregnant with Ben, and she has always refused to tell Ben who his father is. So his ulterior motive for taking the interim head of position at this library is so that he can do research and see all of the men of a particular age on the island and try and figure out who his father is. Of course, Sam is a Martha's Vineyard native. She was born here, she grew up here, her family's been there for a couple of generations now. She knows a lot of people. So, alongside doing their really cute reading dates and encouraging Tyler in the daytime with his robotics championships and competitions. The two of them set about finding out who Ben's dad is. And there is an inevitable awful moment when the two of them have pretty much become a for the summer only couple, where the trail of clues they're following leads to a band, and one of the members of this band being Ben's father. I will give you 3 guesses as to whose father was a member of this band. Yeah, you're right, Sam. Sam and Tyler's dad. Sam and Tyler's dad was in this band, and there is just this awful, like, oh my god, could we be related? To be fair, at least that is the reaction of the characters, as well as you as a reader. But the main reveal of the story is that one of the band members passed away, and that man happens to have been Ben's biological father. Ben is then incredibly depressed about. It means he's never going to meet his dad. Ben pretty much cuts everyone off. He goes off on his motorbike, doesn't talk to anybody, and leaves Sam high and dry. Throughout the summer, Sam has been catering events at this big hotel nearby. As the summer comes to an end, the owner of that hotel offers Sam a job running all of the catering for a much larger hotel he owns back on the mainland. And with Ben nowhere in sight, she can't see any reason to try and stay in Martha's Vineyard. Her relationship with Tyler is a lot better than it was. Her relationship with her dad is vastly improved by having come back to Martha's Vineyard and maybe empathizing with some of the things he was dealing with as his marriage broke down that affected his relationship with Sam quite a lot. Basically realizing that she isn't necessarily a problem for other people to be trying to solve. You know, no one dislikes Sam more than Sam. And so this has been a summer of really learning that there is nothing wrong with her. She is the way she is. And that she's a brilliant, wonderful, talented young woman who is kind and caring. And when she's at the point of wanting more of a relationship with Ben, she's finally accepted that this short-termism just isn't for her. Ben has left. So the book ends with her having packed up all her stuff and getting on the ferry to the mainland with this big dramatic moment of Ben rushing to the ferry, getting on it at the very last minute, declaring his love for her. And it ties in really well with the book that they have been experiencing together. You also find out that even though they're apart at the end of the book, he recorded himself reading the final chapter so she would know how the book ended and she could listen to his voice telling her how the rest of the book went. And guys, it's just so romantic. And she's there listening to the tape, like grizzling on the ferry, and you're like, babe, like one of you clearly needs to bridge this gap between you. And he swoops in like the knight in shining armor he has been all the way through, the man that's always believed in her and opened her eyes into this world that she thought she wasn't invited into, like the world of reading, by just like kicking the door down and dragging her in and being like, you deserve to take up space. You can be present wherever you want. You are valid and talented and a wonderful woman, and I will give you the world. Why are there not more men like Ben? And he apologizes for going to a dark place and just completely cutting her out and making her feel unwanted and unvalued. He swears he'll never do it again, that he appreciates how much she loves her and he didn't think that she was actually going to leave. And she just turns around and's like, okay, I'll ask for the position to do the head of catering at the hotel in Martha's Vineyard rather than the one on the mainland. Problem solved. And Ben gets the permanent position as the head of the library, and they get to live happily ever after on Martha's Vineyard. We also have the potential for a spin-off following the friend Sam's reconnected with M. I really hope she gets her own book and that we get to see more of these characters in the future. But at the minute, this is a standalone romance with just the possibility of M's story kicking off afterwards. It's a great romance novel. I haven't told you absolutely everything that happens in it because I don't want this video to be insanely long. I love the fact that everything to do with dyslexia in this book was very authentic, very real. It was about the representation. It never felt performative. It was a fundamental plot point that the main character was dealing with and embodying. So the general message about dyslexia and reading accessibility, it just hit the nail on the head 100% all of the time. It's a brilliant romance with a stellar main character, a wonderful love interest, and a great host of periphery characters. Honestly, Tyler, Sam's brother, who I know I haven't talked about a ton, he's amazing. The growth of their sibling relationship is one of the core pillars of this book, and it's what makes the book as good as it is. I cannot recommend this book enough. you really should give it a read. It's a brilliant story with a great message that I'm clearly very passionate about, and I would love it if you picked it up and just gave it a chance and supported what it is Jen's trying to do, both with this book and the way this book is created and presented to the world. My name's Christy Clogs, and this has been a standalone spotlight session discussing summer reading by Jenn McKinlay. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment any of your thoughts both on this book or the things that I've said, and please subscribe to my channel. I'm really wanting to grow this. I don't have many followers at the minute, so if you watch my videos but don't subscribe, please do consider clicking that little button and subscribing to my channel. I hope you've enjoyed this video and have a lovely day. I will see you all later, alligators.